Bulavinaka. Before heading into the presentation, I would like to give a brief introduction on the group members. Ponipata Naivolumbasanga, Mateas Naulu, Taniera Naivolumbasanga, Onisimo Servitia, and myself, Abigail Tumbuna. The aim of our group's community-based tourism is to help enforce more community participation in the decision-making process as well as the managerial level. Thus, the presentation focuses on the challenges faced during the implementation process, the benefits, and ways in which community participation may be involved. The group's community-based tourism is based at the Sigatoka Sand Dunes. The video is a short introduction of the features and products Sigatoka Sand Dunes provides. The video also presents a few activities that is held at the destination.
Community-based tourism is tourism in which local residents invite tourists to visit the communities with the provision of overnight accommodations. The residents then earn income as land managers, entrepreneurs, service, produce providers, and employees. It also provides communities with an opportunity to play a role in generating movement in the elements of production and exchange of goods and services in a given region. You may ask as to what are the groups involved in community-based tourism? Well, the participants of the focus groups are community leaders, local business owners, entrepreneurs, and tourism association representatives. And these go hand in hand with investors. And according to the Thailand Community-Based Tourism Institute, CBT is tourism that takes environmental, social, and cultural sustainability into account. It is managed and owned by the community, for the community, with the purpose of enabling visitors to increase their awareness and learn about communities and local ways of life. Through community-based tourism, it allows visitors to interact with the locals and get an authentic taste and feel of the cultural experience. In a nutshell, it acts as an alternative to bridge the economic and social gaps between those in rural and those that are in the community, such as those that exist in the villages.
Bula everyone. I'll be discussing on planned case study. I'll be identifying what our community-based tourism is, the location, and the important features of our community-based tourism, and as to why we chose it. Moving on, our community-based tourism is Sigatoka Sand Dunes, and Sigatoka Sand Dunes is geographically located at the coordinates of longitude of 30 degrees east and the latitude of 20 degrees south. Now, Sigatoka Sand Dunes is located on the coast of Viti Levu, 3 kilometers west of the Sigatoka town. It is also located at the mouth of the Sigatoka River. And that is just a brief description as to where our community-based tourism is located at. Moving on to the features of the Sigatoka Sand Dune, in 1989, the Sigatoka Sand Dune was designated as Fiji's first national park under the management of the NTF, which is National Trust of Fiji. The sand dunes ranges from 20 to 60 meters tall. That is the length or the height of the dunes. And it is also one of the archaeological sites, meaning people from or students or professors from overseas university, they come to sand dunes, to the sand dune, to come and do some research regarding pottery. It also contains a diverse mix of epidemic and introduced plant species. Thank you. Moving on to slide 5. Slide 5 is just a brief image as to where exactly our community-based tourism is located at. In regards from what I've explained from slide 4, and as you can see, that's the exact location of Sigatoka Sand Dunes and the boundaries as to where the Kolukolu National Park boundary is, and the Sigatoka coastal area. Vinaka. That's it. Save.
Moving on, As mentioned before, the Sigatoka Sand Dunes is regarded as a national park and is managed by the National Trust of Fiji, jointly funded by the Fiji government, independent donors, as well as other agencies to help provide for the protection of Fiji's natural heritage. Now, as you can see on the slide, the group has adopted Sherry Einstein's theory to help reflect on the different levels of community participation. The 5 levels of participation was adopted from Sherry Einstein's original 8-rung ladder of participation. With reference to the National Trust of Fiji's strategic plan from 2008 to 2012, the participation levels that have been reflected are the information, consultation, acting together, as well as supporting. For instance, in the strategic plan, the National Trust of Fiji stated that increased community participation in heritage site programs and activities. Schools and youth groups are also involved in conservation activities and programs. Local communities are also informed on the programs as well as activities implemented. And lastly, concerned heritage owners and users are provided with alternative sources of income. However, when it comes to decision making, the National Trust of Fiji does not present any form of community involvement in the decision making process. With the way the National Trust of Fiji involves community participation, it can also be reflected on Cornwell's participation typology. On the participation for material incentives, whereby the local communities provide labor in terms of site programs and activities in return for food or cash or other material incentives. It can also be reflected on passive participation typology, whereby the local community participate by being told on what has to be done or what has been decided to be done by the National Trust of Fiji and its agencies. So it can be stated that the community is involved, however, there is less or no involvement in the decision-making process.
Purpose of a SWOT analysis to examine the internal and external environments of a company, identifies and analyzes the company's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats which are exposed, and allows strategic planning to be effective. Strengths and weaknesses of ECBT: strength, environmentally sustainable, empowering, cross-cultural understanding, and authentic experience. Weaknesses: the level of demand for the tourist attraction asserts of the community, the marginalization of women and minorities, issues of accessibility of information, lack of local skills. And the strength of weaknesses of the Sigatoka Sand Dunes: strength, accessibility, recognition, and popularity. Weaknesses: locals are not involved in the decision-making process. And lastly, locals lack the skill set and knowledge to be part of the decision-making process.
The 3 models which we have adopted is Einstein's model, Tosun's, and Pretty's typology of community participation. Tosun's model emphasizes the provision of full managerial responsibility and authority to the host community. This is similar to the degrees of citizen power in Einstein's model and to self-mobilization and interactive participation as illustrated in Pretty's model, which you can see now in the slide. Here, the community takes total control regarding the scale of development as well as critical decisions and the day-to-day running of the project. In this participation in Tosun's model, if you refer to the slide, is a situation in which the host community is simply informed about tourism development projects and benefits accrued to the project, and sometimes are allowed to make suggestions which are rarely implemented. This type of participation is parallel to the degree of citizen tokenism in Einstein's model and to functional participation by consultation or participation for material enticements in Pretty's typology. That is to say that community members only get involved because they are incentivized to participate, in which case their suggestions may not be considered or used to their benefit. The community, as often as not, is partially involved in the decision-making process and wields no power whatsoever to make sure that their views are considered for possible implementations by governments, multinational companies, and NGOs, amongst others. Hence, This inflicts a certain degree of tokenism. Induced participation is a passive and indirect form of participation, most often practiced in less developed countries, in which resident communities only support and may back the implementation of tourism development decisions made for their consumptions rather than by them. One important concern in tourism development is sustainability, which cannot be realized without having communities being involved in the decision making process. Thus, community participation is unavoidably imperative for tourism development because most tourist attractions are found in local communities and in most cases coexist side by side with local communities.
The Sigatoka Sand Dunes National Park has been operating for years now, and there are various activities that exist in the pride destination. As you can see on the right hand side of the slide, the existing products are listed, such as hiking, tree planting, tree hugging, trekking, as well as archaeological sites. Now, in terms of potential products, the group has come up with homestays, storytelling, as well as eco-team building programs. Homestays are to accommodate visitors who would like to explore the destination Sigatoka Sand Dunes for more than a day. Now, the villages would be Levu village as well as Voli village, since they are near to the destination. For eco-team building program, this program is to accommodate for companies or businesses that would like to have their staff on a team building program or a team bonding program exercise. It is also a good way to help educate people on the importance of the natural habitat and its conservation and protecting it. Lastly, storytelling is a means of sharing the story and the importance of the national heritage in terms of the archaeological artifacts that were found, such as pottery and human remains at Sigatoka Sand Dunes. Also sharing the stories on how Sigatoka Sand Dunes came about on what it is today. Having to share about the culture and traditions of Sigatoka Sand Dunes and its local communities will help visitors to have a clear understanding and knowledge on the importance of the destination. For this slide, the group will be talking about economic benefits as well as socio-cultural benefits. For economic benefits, the community-based tourism creates employment as well as develop other income streams for the local community. For example, a case study of Kentrejo village in central Java by Goodwin and Stentile stated that it is important to recognize that the conservation of protected areas could not be achieved without the support of local communities. The study goes on to discuss the importance of community-based tourism in creating jobs and employment for the local communities. For instance, in Kondrejo village, 63 jobs was created and the community is now significantly better off. There was no collective community income before the village was established as a tourism village. Now, with the development of employment, Kondrejo village also developed other streams of income in terms of entrance fees, handicraft sales, accommodation services, as well as meals and beverages. Now it can be stated that a major economic benefit of community-based tourism is that it helps with the financial expenses of local communities. Moving on, in terms of socio-cultural benefit, the commodification definition in terms of tourism refers to using a place's culture and the cultural artifacts to make a large enough profit to support part of the area's economy. With reference to a case study of Jiang Kan, the case study stated that the local culture of Chiang Kan has become a product for sale. The evocation of the past, which is a significant identity of Chiang Kan, has been revived by both tourists and locals who are fond of consuming antiquities. This has resulted in locals going back to their roots of their culture. The case study goes on to state that the cultural commodification has spread more of Chiang Kan culture to other societies around the world, and it has also encouraged people to learn about the culture and identities of Chiang Kan people. Lastly, equilibrium is a state of creating a balance or stability within local communities. With reference to community-based tourism, a state of balance is created within the local communities as community-based tourism.
Okay, some of the potential challenges that our groups will encounter when implementing the changes, that it will take time to address changes to the community. For example, as you can see, we've used the basic Lewin's model to address the changes. The first stage, which is unfreezing, this is to change the mindset of the community of people within the organization. Some don't easily accept changes, maybe because there might be a system that have been existing and it's been working for a long time, like a top-down approach or traditional method. So therefore, in this stage, we are trying to involve the employee to make changes or community participation along with stakeholders and other interested parties to involve in the changing process. Since Sigatoka Sand Dunes is managed by the National Trust of Fiji, the step shifts the behavior, values, and attitudes through changes in organization requires local knowledge about the natural environment. Um, so, for example, the new product that we're trying to introduce to them, like eco-team building program, question that you might come up with is it a sustainable both in the short term and long term run, or does it help the community? Well, this will depend on the collaborative ideas of individuals. Some may be shy to talk about it. Well, according to a study conducted by a Professor LA, they found out that only about 30% of China's shyness as a trait it shows to genetical and the rest comes as a response to the environment. Therefore, during the phase of movement, the information that we want to gather might be limited.